Okay.
All right. At 7 o'clock, I'm going to call this meeting to order of Smithville Village Council. Roll call.
Allen, Haas,
Yes.
Heiche,
Here.
All right. At 7 o'clock.
Mullins,
Here.
Smithville Village.
Thorne,
Here.
okay.
All right. As you see on our agenda, the first item of business is obviously we've invited Joseph Reed to join us this evening. I think obviously we've communicated all to you with Rob's resignation that we accepted at the last meeting. The last time that we had a vacancy, Joe was one of the individuals that we considered at that point in time. We did post on our website the opening, made it known as far as the opening in a council seat. We had no other individuals. So given that, obviously we've extended the invitation to Joe to join us, which he greatly and was glad to be a part of council. So at this point, I guess what we'd like to do is entertain a motion to appoint Joe Reed to the open council seat. And a second.
I'd like to make a motion to appoint Joseph Reed to the open seat of village council.
Second. Thorne.
Okay, so we have a
If
motion.
John wants it, he can have it. Yep.
All right. And we have a motion and a second. I guess maybe I should allow Joe the opportunity if he wants to say anything, or if any of you folks have any further questions for him, you'd be welcome to. But Joe, if you want to say anything, you'd be welcome to before they vote. It's your last chance.
Well, I'm just glad that I was kept in mind this time around. If everything should go my favor here in the next 60 seconds or so, I'm looking forward to getting involved and meeting with you here.
Sounds great. If there's no questions, I'll ask for a roll call.
Haas,
Yes.
Heiche,
Yes.
Mullins,
Yes.
Thorne,
All right.
I just put him back in.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. I hit hang up instead of mute. I'm very sorry.
You're fine. We were just voting on obviously Joseph Reed, and we were waiting for your vote.
Yes, please. Welcome, Joe.
All right. All right. Thank you. At this point, what we're going to do is Jason and Joe are at their law office. I think Jason's going to swear Joe in. That way, then he can actually be an acting member of council, because we do need him later in the meeting, given that Larry was unable to join us this evening.
Are you ready? Do you, Joseph Reed, solemnly swear or affirm that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Ohio, and that you will faithfully perform the duties of councilperson of the Village of Smithville, Wayne County, Ohio, during your continuance in office and until your successor shall have been selected, so help you God?
I do.
Need you to sign there for me, please. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, congratulations.
Welcome.
All right. And I did send you an email. I know they have some things here at Village Hall for you. Paperwork, as well as we do have a council handbook we'll give you as well. And again, welcome aboard. If there's anything you need, don't hesitate to give a holler, especially on projects that are ongoing. That, you know, the rest of council may already have information on things that we're discussing. So going forward, don't hesitate to ask for the supporting documents from prior periods as well.
Absolutely.
So moving on, then the next item on our agenda would be.
Let me interrupt real quick.
Sure.
You want this original? That I
Yes,
just
please. Yes, please. If you would give us the original, obviously, and again, if you want to send it with Joe whenever he comes to do his paperwork, that would be fine.
Okay.
That way, then
Next question.
we'll have it here. We'll have it here at the office then. So.
Okay. Thanks, Tom.
Okay. Then, like I say, you should have been received a copy of the minutes prior to the meeting. If you've had the opportunity to review those minutes, I'd entertain a motion to approve and a second.
Motion to approve the minutes, and I'm sorry, I don't have the date in front of me for
August 18th, 2020.
August 18th, 2020 as written.
Second, Hawes.
Okay, we have motion and second to approve the minutes as presented. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Haas,
Yes.
Heicher,
Yes.
Mullins,
Yes,
Reed,
Yes.
Thorne,
Yes.
I think Reed would have to abstain,
abstain.
right, Tom? Is that right?
Yeah, well, since you weren't at the meeting technically, but then moving on into the next items, we have no visitors. The only thing that the police chief was unable to attend tonight because he had a class he was teaching. So he had indicated that to me. I told him it was not an issue, but you should have received an email from me separate in regards to a resignation from one of our patrol officers. And again, too, it's one of the individuals that obviously that we had spoken about a number of months ago as a possibility of moving on. And again, too, it is from Andrew Petrie. And he has indicated that he says, "Dear Chief Funk, please accept this as formal notice of my resignation from the position of patrolman at the Village of Smithville Police Department, effective 2 weeks from today, making my last day of employment September 4th, 2020. After careful consideration, I've made the decision to resign in order to pursue a new career opportunity closer to home. Working for the Village of Smithville Police Department has been a wonderful experience that has afforded me many valuable opportunities to learn and grow, and I'm very grateful to have been part of this organization. I wish you and the Village of Smithville Police Department continued growth and success in the future." And they signed Andrew Petrie. Again, too, I guess I would entertain a motion to accept his resignation.
Motion to accept resignation of Officer Andrew Petrie effective September 4th is the
4th.
last day? Okay, 2020.
Second, Thorne.
Okay. And again, too, a motion and a second. Any questions? Hearing none, roll call.
Heicher,
Yes.
Mullins,
Yes,
Reed,
Yes.
Thorne,
Yes.
Haas,
Yes.
Okay. And again, obviously being the 1st of September, we do not have the monthly police report available yet, but it should be available our next meeting. And again, too, I believe the chief will probably be joining us at that meeting, probably to talk about as far as things relative to his department as well. Moving on, correspondence, the things that you should have is, as you recall the last meeting, we have been receiving donations from the David Zimmerman Memorial for the park. Again, too, the last meeting, the first individual that is on your list that was emailed to you had already given us a donation. We accepted that the last meeting. Then the following ones on the list from that first on down are new. So we are obviously going to accept the donations listed, and the total of that will be $735. And again, I guess I would entertain a motion.
I'll motion to accept the donations to the park fund in the amount of $735.
second.
Okay, we have motion and second to approve the park donations. Any questions? Hearing none, roll call.
Mullins,
Yes, yes,
Thorne,
Yes.
Haas,
Yes.
Heicher,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
All right, thank you. And again, I think that, you know, with Matt, we probably need to maybe be thinking about as far as how we want to acknowledge these gifts to the donors as well on behalf of the village. So maybe we can email back and forth and kind of come up with what we want to do and how we want to take care of that.
Sure.
Moving on then, the only other correspondence was an item that I did email to you that I received, and that's in relationship to obviously a filing with PUCO relative to an increase. I just passed along for your information as well. Then moving on, unless anyone else has any correspondence to share with the group. If not, then I think what we'll move into is old business. And in the old business, what we have is obviously tonight we wanted to have some preliminary discussion. Jason had, from the prior meetings, put together a proposal that basically would delete the current language relative to mowing for vacant lots and would incorporate it into the property maintenance portion of our zoning code. Again, with that, obviously we would say have a piece of legislation would vacate the prior ordinance, and then one that would obviously place the new language within the zoning code under property maintenance. And again, he provided that to us. We did forward it to John Parker, given that he's our zoning administrator, and where we're moving it to, he would be the individual that would obviously administrate it and enforce it. So again, we asked him to give us some feedback between now and the next meeting as well. Again, at this point, I guess I would throw it open to you folks. Maybe first of all, Jason, give him the opportunity to speak in relationship to what he's done with what we had given him.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. So basically, it's two separate ordinances. The first one, as Tom mentioned, just completely repeals the section as it currently stands for vacant lots. And then the second piece of legislation repeals the existing section about improved lots in the village and replaces it with basically what we discussed with 12-inch height limit for grass. I removed the section about a time period during the year. I figured if we're going to enforce it, it should probably be enforced all year, not just spring, summer. And I left in the enforcement section. I just referenced the current sections within the property maintenance code. Since that's already in there, I didn't see any need to spell it out additionally. So basically what we're looking at is an ordinance that says if you have grass taller than 12 inches, you got to cut it, or we're going to do it for you and assess you for it. Questions?
One question I have, it's no pun intended, it's kind of in the weeds. What are we determining to be, I guess, let me phrase it backwards. So say, for example, I have a patch in my yard, maybe around a planter or something, where I mow, but I don't trim. So I've got some grass and weeds that are beyond that 12-inch height. Are we going to get that detail focused, or are we going to just look at the property as a whole? I mean, and let me guys clarify real quick. I know the purpose of the ordinance is to prevent nuisance property. I just want to make sure that we're not forcing ourselves to go after, folks that maybe they're one particular section or something is. Does that make sense? I want to make sure we're not permitting, obviously, nuisance properties, but I want to make sure that we're not so focused on, a certain number of square footage or something.
So, Scott, I think that's a fair question. As with other things within the property maintenance code, that's kind of at the discretion of the administrator of such code. So in this case, I don't see a scenario where John Parker says you've got 3 blades of grass that are more than 12 inches because you didn't run a trimmer around this landscaped area. I would think he would take that as a whole and say, if you haven't mowed your yard, that's when we're going to cite you.
Yeah, thank you. That makes a good deal of sense to me, and that's how I had hoped it would then. And so I appreciate you clearing that up, Jason.
Yeah, I like to keep things from a common sense perspective, and let's let people do their jobs and use their discretion, and not be super strict about things that we don't necessarily need to.
Again, I would think I would agree with that from an administrative standpoint, that, obviously common sense is the key word. And obviously, I think John would take that approach from the standpoint of enforcement. And I think that's how we are relative to most issues that we have in the village. Our general first step is common sense approach, and obviously trying to address it when it's become an issue. So.
I have one.
Are there any other questions? Or I guess the question would be, yeah.
Pardon me, Tom. I am I'm trying to read this as quickly as I can, and it's our the notice of violation and legal service, and it's the penalty part if a lawn is not cut to the proper length. And I guess I need Jason's help to tell me, is this, we're going to charge $75 for the first hour and $50 for any additional hour to mow their grass. Should we add more of a penalty to that in case someone's just going to use this to get us to mow their grass for $75? There's no monetary penalty when the village has to contact the owner, then contact a lawn mowing service to take care of this. In some cases, maybe it'll only take an hour, and it might be a good deal for the owner just to have us take care of it. We don't really want to be that. We're not really here to be in business to, be their middleman and take care of their lawn. Am I making
John, this is Matt. I don't have the ordinance in front of me that has the penalties in front of me, but does it split up between the actual cost to mow and administrative fees? I remember that version from the town down in the Dayton area had kind of.
Yeah, I tried to include that in our first one, but this is already written in the ordinance.
Existing, okay.
Existing ordinance, but I'm trying to read it, and pardon me for not doing my homework, Jason.
Well, I just sent it to you last night, so I'm not super concerned about that.
Is there more of this I'm missing, or is it just what we're going to penalize them for is what would it cost us to mow it?
Well, so that says, the existing ordinance says that that's the minimum fee, is in no case less than $75 for the first hour and $50 for each additional. I mean, it can be more than that. But I don't know, do we really think people are going to say, well, I'm just going to pay the village to mow the grass for me because I don't want to do it? Do we think that that's actually going to be an issue?
I'm trying to forbade, let's write it so it's not an issue in case that would ever come up. Now, I'm not saying that folks are that minded now, but down the road when maybe $75 is a really good deal to have their grass mowed, yeah, they might say, hey, I'll just leave it alone and the village will take care of it and I'll pay them.
Well, but again, that's the minimum fee. And so I think we're going to pass along whatever fee we incur. So if we have to pay someone $200 to do it, that's what they're going to be charged.
Right. But for instance, if it's a lot that's takes us an hour, we're going to charge them $75. But yet we're going to we're going to send them a letter, try to get them to mow it themselves. Write the letter, send them a letter. What kind of cost are we going to incur to do all that? Inform the owner and the violating party of the right of appeal, and you have to have that in there. I understand, but that's got to cost the village a couple bucks. So maybe we should make a penalty dollar amount so it's clear. Hey, mow it yourself. We don't want to be your secretary. The village does not want to be your secretary to get your grass mowed. That's maybe I'm over making this over, but I think it's a slight concern of mine that people will use that just to get their grass cut.
I think there's something possibly already built into the code. If we were to make reference to 153.999, if we were to include something where after the second or third offense, the penalty is bumped up to follow that provision, then every day that they've got their grass above 12 inches, that's a new minor misdemeanor charge that can be filed. And that's going to rack up real quick, and it's going to be a pretty strong deterrent, I would think.
That was, you must have read my mind on that. I was wondering if that nuisance ordinance we hadn't worked on earlier, specifically regarding the property on North Summit, if that wouldn't then, once it escalated, as if it happened as Mr. Heitcher inferred, then that might tick into an already existing ordinance for escalation.
That would be perfect to me if that would work out the 153.99. If that would kick into this after if it didn't get mowed, that would be perfect. I have no problem with that. I didn't put those two together, and I thank Joe for letting me know about that.
So I am looking at the ordinance we did to see if it specifically addresses property maintenance. And I'm not seeing it in here.
Is there broad language perhaps to a nuisance as far as, I think we referenced garbage and general disrepair. I thought maybe that could fall under a nuisance, because that would be a nuisance, as John said, for the village to have to become their lawn care company, de facto lawn care. I just was wondering.
So in looking at it, property zoning comes under section 153 of our code. And in the criminal activity nuisance that we cited, we referred to a bunch of different sections of the code, but we actually did not refer to property zoning at all. But I guess maybe that's because it has its own penalty section.
So I guess the next question would be, can we add two, not combine them, but make that our latest, the 9.9 version of the nuisance work with the new ordinance we're trying to get passed here?
So they would, because they fall under the same section. So a violation of this new ordinance that we're discussing could potentially lead to the penalties Joe referenced because they fall under the same section.
Okay,
That makes sense?
so really you're saying we need to do nothing about this at this point? We don't have to reference them to each other, or we're just, since they're in the same section, they're good?
Yes.
Okay.
Are there any other questions in relationship to the proposed legislation? Again, I think our intent would be at our next meeting to place it on first reading. I think we will make, obviously Beverly posts notification of our meetings. I will have her specifically maybe post notice of that on the website so people are aware that there is legislation we're looking at that will obviously be changing as far as property maintenance and specifically this issue. But again, too, I would think if you have questions in the interim between now and the next meeting, it'd be useful if you want to shoot them off to Jason, copy everyone else. That way Jason's response then would be seen by anyone else as well. And also what we will do is once I hear from John Parker, I'm assuming he will usually always responds in writing. I will forward that information to all of you, obviously, prior to the next meeting as well. So you'll have that before you as well. I may also invite him to join us for that discussion at the next meeting, extend a Zoom invitation. Jason, you can make a note. Simply that way, then he can be here to also then share his perspective on the proposed changes and anything that he might be bringing to us. So
Tom, I will send out this proposed ordinance to everybody after the meeting.
well, actually, I did forward it to them.
Oh, did you? Okay. Well, as I'm looking at it, I just realized I had a typo. So
Okay.
I'll
All right.
send out a revised one.
All right, that's fine. And obviously we can clean up before final version and final passage. The intent on this legislation is that we will go through normal readings before actually passing it as a final ordinance. So again, too, if no one else has any question, I think we'll move on in the agenda. All right, and thank you, Jason. I appreciate your efforts on this behalf. Then moving on, is there anything else under old business that needs to be brought before us tonight? If there isn't, I'm going to move into new business. The first item that we have before us is the 2019 codified ordinance supplement adoption. Again, every year, obviously American Legal takes the ordinances that we passed in the prior year. What they do is they then obviously codify them and place them within our existing, our ordinance book. Obviously, if you've seen it's a large book that obviously has everything in it. What they do then is they take and they eliminate obviously certain pages. We have replacement pages, but they sent us that update. And I did review the update. Becky had given me the actual ordinances that we passed last year. So I looked in the sections that they obviously given us new pages for to make certain that they did actually incorporate the language as it appears in the ordinance into that document. And again, what this action is basically, and Jason could obviously add to, or Joe, is that basically we're adopting obviously these changes to be made part of that record. And again, too, as you recall, this is now available online also as a link from our website that makes it available to anyone online as far as to be able to access these types of information and documents. And again, I don't know, Jason, you want to add anything? You're welcome to.
I don't have anything to add. I think that was a pretty good summary.
Okay, it's layman's summary. So yeah. Anyways, I guess what I would do is if everyone's comfortable with that, then I would ask for a motion. Actually, it's an ordinance, so I would ask for a motion to suspend, if we could.
So moved.
Second. Pause.
Okay, we have motion and second to suspend. Any discussion on the suspension? Hearing none, roll call.
Reed,
Yes.
Thorne,
Yes.
Haas,
Yes.
Eicher,
Yes.
Mullins,
Yes.
All right, thank you. The next thing I would entertain is a motion for ordinance number 2020-20.
20.
Okay. And again, it's an ordinance enacting and adopting a supplement to the Code of Ordinances for the Village of Smithville, Ohio, and declaring an emergency.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and second adopting ordinance number 2020-20. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Thorne,
Yes.
Haas,
Yes.
Eicher,
Yes.
Mullins,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
All right. And Jason, I don't know, do you have a hard copy book?
I do.
If you want to drop it off Village Hall or send it with Joe, they can put the pages in for you and update it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Sure. I think you're the only one that probably has one, but I thought I'd mention that to you. So, are there any other items of new business that should be brought before us this evening? If not, then we'll move into liaison reports. And the first one would be Scott for equipment.
Yeah, good evening. I spoke with Mr. Turner and just some regular maintenance on some village-owned vehicles. And believe it or not, they are actually starting to look towards getting stuff ready for winter. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay. Moving on, Larry said that there's no report, but there will be one the next meeting or fire. Guess moving on then, the next thing would be parks and trees, and Matt.
Yeah, just a couple things. We'll have our next park board meeting on Wednesday, September 16th. And the other thing, Mayor, I owe you a response on when we can get together to talk with CT Consultants Funding Specialist on some of the potential major funding dollars that we could try to get for some of the major projects over the next few years for the park. So I'll get back to you this week.
Okay, that'd be great. Like I say, she was more than willing to assist us with that. So.
Yep, that's it.
Then the streets and sidewalks, John.
I really don't have anything there, Mayor.
Okay. And then Trish, is there anything relative to finance or personnel?
No, but I just had nothing tonight. I'm still working on some tweaking on the PEP emergency plan, but you sent us the natural gas letter today. Yeah. Was that something I missed you talking about, or were we not talking about that?
That was just correspondence.
Okay, I was just making sure it wasn't something we were.
And again, like I say, it's usually something, if we were meeting personally, I would just route around the table just for your information. So
just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't have anything else.
Okay, the only thing that I did also send out to you, because she didn't get it completed, you should have also had an attachment for the income tax revenue report, which Becky prepares for us monthly. Again, it shows withholdings as well as individual business finals. It shows totals for the month and year-to-date totals. As all of you are aware, it's something we've been tracking for the last number of years. And again, too, this year with COVID-19, and obviously some of the decisions that were made relative to obviously people being laid off, not necessarily being employed, also businesses not having as many employees. We did see, obviously, as you look back into the end of June, we were down about $99,661 against what we had anticipated. But last month we gained another 20,000. We're at 79. This month we're back to 59,000. I think it's also important to note, if you look up earlier in the year, in March, that 59 actually reflects the 22,393 that the state, which we are aware of at the time, that the state obviously with centralized collections for business available, that they made an overpayment to us. Obviously, we had identified that, but obviously until they asked for that money back, But if we take that into account, really at this point, we would be about $37,000 off what we had expected. I'm hoping that we'll continue to see a positive trend last months of the year. And so hopefully maybe we won't see as big of an impact as we initially saw. But again, that's given to you each month, obviously, and it's something Becky prepares for us for this meeting. Any questions on that report? If there isn't any, then I'm going to say the only other things under mayor's report that I have is that just some information about BPA. It seems as though our sewer plant is one of those places that we continually have things that obviously occur. Obviously, I think last time was blower replacements. Well, in the last week or so, we'd received notification to us relative to the breaker being kicked off continually. And what it related to, and I'm going to read some of it only because it's kind of technical in nature, but it's an auger rotor assembly that basically, as I understand, has brushes on it. And in layman's terms, again, what it is it's a component of the sewer plant that captures and pulls out all kinds of debris and items that normally you wouldn't think you would find coming through the sanitary sewer system, but does. What happened was it obviously was malfunctioning, causing the breaker to kick. Company came out, obviously jumped in and looked at it. They reported that obviously there was wear on the assembly. So as a result, it wasn't functioning properly. It was binding up. Obviously, they pulled out some brush components that were loose. But in essence, they obviously are going to have to replace that unit. And that unit, and again, it's for informational, this is something BPA is dealing with, but just so you folks know, that unit was about $16,269. Obviously, we're going to also have to basically have an opening in the facility that this comes out of to be able to get it into the building, be temporary in nature, and then basically they'll seal that back up. But again, too, with labor, it's probably going to be another $2,000. But it is something we don't have much choice in the matter because they're not able to operate it for fear of doing additional damage. So they're only operating as much as necessary and basically not running it like it normally would run all the time. But I just want to give council that information. The other things on the water tower project, did speak with CT Consultants, the engineers. We are working on getting contracts from the two contractors, the one being the water main, and also the one that's going to build the water tower itself. Those two contractors will get us contracts, which Jason will review. And our intent is to set up, obviously, a pre-construction meeting that those individuals will obviously be a part of, contractors as well as CT, the inspectors that will work on behalf of, obviously, the village. And we will sit down and obviously go through the expectations relative to the project itself. I did take the opportunity to go out and talk to Mark Dravensaw, or I spoke to him on the phone then eventually. We are going to invite them to this meeting as well to make certain there's conversation between obviously the business owners directly out in that area to make certain they've had access to the individuals involved. So if there's any kinds of questions or issues that arise, they have direct contact to make certain that this is as seamless as possible. The other thing of note, as I mentioned before, we will be sending out something probably tomorrow relative to the groundbreaking that we're planning for September 17th at 10 a.m. And again, too, you'll receive notification on that as well. Obviously, all of you folks will be welcome. We will be inviting the press as well as elected officials from the county that have been involved with this project, and also former officials such as Al Snyder, former mayor, some folks that have really been intricately involved with this prior to this point in time, given the number of years that this project has been discussed. So that's something you'll be receiving as well. Are there any questions for me at this point? If not, then I guess what we will do is move into reading of the bills. You should have two copies, two lists that were given to you. One is bills that we've already paid due to due dates, and then the other are to be approved for payment. And again, too, I would entertain a motion to approve bills.
I don't have them together, but motion to approve this particular sheet of bills in the amount of $17,436.47. Can I combine these or do them separately?
Yes, you can combine them if you can give me a total.
Well, I don't have my calculator with me, but the other one is in the amount of $9,743.67. Give me a second, I'll get you a total.
I thought that you'd be the math whiz and just do that in your head. Trish.
I'm totally not with it tonight, sorry.
You're all right. I shouldn't give you a hard time.
Trish, I got a total.
Sure,
for
someone
you.
else has it faster.
I got you 27,180.14.
Thank you so much.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you, John. We have a motion and second to pay bills. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Haas,
Yes?
Heicher,
Yes.
Mullins,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Thorne,
Yes.
All right. The note on there, future meetings, BPA meets September 14th, 6 p.m. here at Village Hall. Again, too, the main topic that they're discussing obviously is working with CT on a basically a plan to evaluate all the sanitary sewers as it relates to I&I. Obviously, again, our intent is to begin to work towards remediating the issues that we have as it relates to that. Again, too, they did have the opportunity to have a meeting with CT. Ryan Marthy, former BPA chair, as well as he works for the county as in the engineer's office, was involved. We're going to have discussion on that. At this point, our OPWC project for this coming fall will incorporate relining some of the sanitary sewers that we recently cleaned out. But in the project what they're looking at is creating a project that would, over a period of years, analyze and decide what areas need to be assessed or worked on first. And then we would move forward with OPWC projects in ongoing years in which to try to address the I&I. Again, so anyone would be welcome to join that. Then obviously our next meeting will be for council September 15th, 7 p.m. So I think if there's nothing else, and I might just have one thing with Joseph before he leaves tonight after we adjourn, is I was going to say that if so, Larry's not here, but if someone would make a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. We have motion and second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right. Thanks, folks. I appreciate it.
Good night.
Thanks, everybody.